I'm Judith Cassel-Mamet, and I want to show you how to begin a mixed media journal. I call it adventure journaling because to me, an adventure journal is one where you have complete freedom when you deal with the blank page. You're capturing the moment of your life and it's telling your story. Now these moments can be totally mundane, some part of your daily life, some part of your routine. It also could be a moment where you are taking an overseas trip. So the adventures that I'm talking about can be little microcosms, or they can be huge. So I'd like to show you how to begin an adventure journal. First of all, it's important to pick out a good journal to use. I like one with a spiral binding so that I can leave it flat. If I'm doing any water media, it's got a nice way to dry. It's also easier to work with. My favorite journals are either this Aquabee Super Deluxe because it has some really nice thick paper which will hold up to all the mixed media techniques I'm going to use. I also pretty much love any of the moleskin journals. Those are sewn, so you can't really leave them flat, but the paper is just delicious, and especially the watercolor paper for the moleskin really makes a nice journal. The other materials that I work with I will print out and have on my website, which I will direct you to at the end of this video. But it's really simple, and I'm guessing you have almost everything already. So let's begin. You'll notice that my journals all have personalized covers, but I recommend not doing anything to the cover of your journal and leaving that first page completely blank until you're 2/3 of the way through with the journal or completely through. At that point, it's really enjoyable to go back and personalize your cover based on what has emerged from the journal you are keeping. So we leave the first page blank. Now, my approach to the journal is one where I like to use layers to build rich textural surfaces. So here's some quick and easy tricks to start your journal and build up those layers. First, totally easy thing is find a discarded book, rip out the page, and just glue that down. Here's an example of the prepared surface, and here's an example of a journal spread where both sides have been worked on top of that text page that was glued down first. I completely ignored it, did my writing, colored pencil, some stamping, and some black tape on top of that page to get a rich textural surface. I love using dictionary pages. For something like this, before I write, I might go through and pull out some fun words that I want to incorporate in a journal entry, or just leave it and work on top. I know that most of us are a little panicked facing a completely blank page. So this page preparation concept really helps get over that and get your journal going. The simplest way to do that is to take some stamp pads. I like to use dye ink. It's not tacky, it's super easy to clean up. The other kind of ink is pigment ink, but I like dye ink. And look, this is just an eraser that was sitting around my house. If I just stamp the page a couple of times, I can prepare it. And now this would make a really interesting page to write on top of. Here's another eraser just sitting around probably my kids' room that will give a slightly different effect. And then I'm guessing you might have a cork or two sitting in your house. Look what a great stamp the bottom of the cork makes. I could fill my whole page with just cork and eraser stamps. Or I could frame it and do this as a border and then come back in and do some drawing or writing in there. Here's one that I know is going to seem really crazy, but another way to prepare a page is to shape your page. Just a simple rip like that suddenly makes this a more interesting page to work on. And I can use my stamps to create an interesting effect on both pages. It also gets rid of that pristine nature and you're jumping in. Here's an example of a ripped page where I ripped it. If I move that netting away, you can see where I ripped right down that side, and then I just hand sewed these tags onto this page, and while I was hand sewing, I grabbed some probably garlic netting to go over it. And then I painted this afterwards with some watercolor or acrylic. But you can see the ripped page and the tags attached right there. For this last page preparation technique that's super easy to do with a brand new book, all I need is an old toothbrush and, as you can see, some old watercolors. I particularly like the Prang, P-R-A-N-G, Prang brand, because I think their colors are much more vivid than anybody else's. So I've put some water in the little pans. I'm going to put my toothbrush in. There's my toothbrush. You can see some of the blue. I'm going to hold the bristles down and just splatter. This makes a really interesting surface on your page. You can see I'm splattering over the ripped edge, and I've got some nice things going on there. Here are some examples. This is a page where I put my text first to create columns. I splattered over this, and then I went to the Denver Art Museum one afternoon and did some quick sketches of some of the beautiful work that's there. Here is another example of splattering using the toothbrush and some black paint. I splattered this as well, and this time I was in a coffee shop and I grabbed some conversation to put down. So I'm showing you that a mixed media journal is my adventure journal, where I'm just capturing the moment like I did on these two pages, where I was sitting in a coffee shop. I remember sort of a crazy conversation, and I was just looking to tell my story of that very moment. And I started on pages that were prepared, made it a lot easier, and I created the layers. So that's it. Really easy way to get an adventure journal started. Check out my website for a list of simple materials that I like to use, and for classes if you're in the Denver metro area to come and have a great adventure with the journal.